There are stories that start with light, with laughter, with a warm hand reaching down to pull you from the dirt. This one doesn't. This story starts with a closed door, a screaming match muffled by drywall, a child sitting alone at the top of the stairs, holding his knees. His name doesn't matter, because this story is not about identity. It's about formation, and how trauma rewires the soul. The boy grows up in shadows. He knows how to walk silently, how to avoid eye contact, how to tell a lie with a smile. But what breaks a child isn't always a slap. Sometimes it's being invisible. Sometimes it's hearing your name in anger more than in love. We're not here to dramatize pain. We're here to understand how pain reshapes a human being, and why some people collapse under its weight, while others rise. Attachment theory teaches us that children don't just learn love. They map it. A secure child runs toward danger, knowing a parent will protect them. An abused child sits still in chaos, knowing any movement could invite more pain. Our subject, this boy, grew up in a household of volatility. Love was conditional. Praise came only after perfection. And punishment? It was the only consistent form of attention. This early environment created a disorganized attachment style, a push-pull dynamic. The child learned that love could become rage without warning. He became hypervigilant. You'll see this in his eyes later in life. The way they scan a room. Constantly. Looking for threats. Reading faces. Trying to predict the next shift in emotional weather. That's the first crack in the emotional architecture. The sense that the world is not safe, and worse, that you are the reason it's not. As he aged, the child became what adults called mature. Quiet. Focused. Respectful. But this was not maturity. This was adaptation. He learned that being invisible meant safety. Being helpful earned a moment of peace. He got good at reading people. Too good. He could tell when a smile was fake. When someone's tone was about to shift. He became the perfect student. The friend who listened more than spoke. The one who always said, "I'm fine." But he wasn't fine. He was performing safety in a world that never gave him any. Psychologically, this is called fawning. An often overlooked trauma response. Unlike fight, flight, or freeze, fawn means to appease. To become small enough that no one gets angry. This phase created his first identity, the peacemaker. The brain is a protector. When trauma overwhelms, it doesn't destroy, it buries. Many of his most painful memories weren't gone. They were sealed. And with them, so was his access to emotion. He couldn't cry. He couldn't explain the ache. He had words for thoughts, but none for feelings. This is known in psychology as emotional dissociation. The memories remained. The impact remained. But the bridge to access them was cut. He lived in what trauma researchers call functional freeze. His body moved. His mind worked. But emotionally, he was underwater. Relationships confused him. He'd pull away the moment someone got close. Or he'd cling too tightly, terrified they'd disappear. This was not personality. This was programming. You don't escape your childhood. You just grow taller than the house it happened in. As he entered adulthood, the trauma evolved. It no longer lived in his past, it leaked into his present. He found himself in patterns. Attracted to emotionally unavailable partners. Overworking to earn worth. Exploding in private after performing calm in public. And worst of all, he didn't understand why. He read books. Watched self-help videos. Journaled. But nothing changed. Because information doesn't heal the wound, it only explains the symptom. Everyone has a tipping point. A moment when the pain of suppression outweighs the fear of exposure. For him, it came quietly. Not with a bang, but a breakdown. One night, after a normal day, he sat in his car and couldn't move. He felt nothing. And that nothingness became terrifying. He called no one. He drove home. Locked the door. And for the first time in his adult life, he sobbed. Not tears of sadness. Tears of release. This was the start of his healing. Because pain, when felt safely, becomes data. And data can be transformed. He began therapy. Not for solutions, but for exploration. He learned about inner child work, going back, not to relive, but to reparent. He wrote letters to his younger self. He sat with the parts of him that never got held. And slowly, the mask cracked. Not because he was weak, but because he was finally strong enough to stop pretending. He learned that emotions are not enemies. That grief is not a flaw. That vulnerability is not exposure, it's evolution. He connected the dots. Why he feared abandonment. Why he sought control. Why he couldn't rest. These were not failures. They were adaptations. And now, he could outgrow them. Pain didn't leave. But it changed form. It became purpose. He started writing. Sharing his story. Helping others see their patterns. Not as identity, but as injury. This is what psychologists call post-traumatic growth. Not just recovery, but transformation. He became the thing he never had, safe. Present. Unbreakable. Because he chose not to forget, but to face. Not to repeat, but to reconstruct. He's not a survivor. He's an architect. Building new internal structures from the ruins of an old emotional war zone. Childhood trauma does not end with childhood. It echoes, through tone, posture, choice, silence. But silence can be broken. And once it is, healing doesn't just repair, it redefines. So if you see someone calm under pressure, reserved in chaos, watchful in love, understand, they're not cold. They're coded. And when that code is rewritten, the same child who was broken, becomes the adult who heals others. Pain doesn't have to define you. But it can design you. You are not what happened to you. You are what you choose to build from it. He didn't choose the pain. But he chose what to do with it. That's the difference. Some stay broken. Others build empires from the ruins. And in that choice, he found power. Not because the world changed, but because he did. Thank you for your patience in this video.